As a police officer, what is the kindest thing suspect ever said to you? I've been a cop for 12 years now, and you see a lot of ugly stuff in this job. People at their worst moments, families torn apart, kids who never had a fair shot at life. After a while, you start to think everyone's just looking out for themselves. But this one call changed everything for me. It was a cold December night around 11 p.m. when we got a report about someone breaking into cars in the Walmart parking lot. My partner Mike and I drove over expecting the usual routine. Catch some teenager looking for loose change, write them up, call their parents. When we got there, we found this guy hunched over by a beat-up Honda Civic, clearly trying to get inside. He was wearing this thin jacket that looked like it came from a thrift store, no gloves, and his hands were bright red from the cold. Soon as he saw our headlights, he just stopped what he was doing and put his hands up. Didn't try to run, didn't make excuses, just stood there waiting for us. I got out of the patrol car and walked over. The guy was probably in his 40s, had this weathered face like he'd been through some tough times. His name was Danny, and when I asked him what he was doing, he just said, "I was trying to break into this car, officer." No lies, no stories about locked keys, just straight honesty. So I asked him why he was breaking into cars, and that's when his whole story came out. Danny had been living in his truck for the past 3 months after losing his construction job. He'd been staying in the Walmart parking lot because they don't kick you out for overnight parking. But 2 days ago, his truck broke down completely. Dead engine, and he didn't have money to fix it. He'd been sleeping in the bathroom at a 24-hour gas station, but they finally told him he couldn't stay there anymore. For the past 2 nights, he'd been walking around all night just to stay warm, then sleeping a few hours during the day in the library. "I wasn't looking for money or anything valuable," he said. "I just needed somewhere warm to sleep for a few hours. I thought if I could get into one of these cars, I could rest until morning, then leave before anyone noticed." I looked at Mike, and I could tell we were both thinking the same thing. This wasn't some punk looking for drug money. This was a guy who was literally just trying not to freeze to death. But here's the part that really got to me. Danny looked at me and said, "Officer, I know what I was doing was wrong. I know you have to arrest me, and I understand that. But before you do, I just want to say thank you." I was confused. Thank you for what? For treating me like a human being, for listening to my story instead of just throwing me in the back of your car. Most people look at me like I'm garbage now. They cross the street when they see me coming. You're the first person in months who's looked me in the eye when I was talking. Then he said something I'll never forget. "I used to be just like you, you know. I had a house, a job, paid my taxes. I never thought this would happen to me. But life hits hard sometimes, and before you know it, you're on the wrong side of everything. I just want you to know that even though I made a bad choice tonight, I'm still grateful there are people like you who see that I'm still a person." Mike and I looked at each other. We both knew we couldn't just let this guy keep wandering around in 20-degree weather. I called our sergeant and explained the situation. Asked if there was anything we could do besides booking him into county jail. Turns out there was an emergency shelter across town that had space, but they needed someone to vouch for Danny and drive him over. We ended up taking Danny to the shelter instead of jail. On the way there, he kept thanking us and apologizing for causing trouble. Said he'd never broken the law before in his life, and he felt horrible about it. The shelter got him set up with a bed, some hot food, and connected him with a job placement program. 3 weeks later, Danny called the station looking for me. He'd found work with a moving company and saved enough money to rent a small room. He wanted to thank me again and let me know he'd never forgotten how we treated him that night. Danny still sends me a Christmas card every year. Always writes the same thing. "Thank you for seeing the person, not just the problem." That call taught me something important about this job. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do isn't about following every rule perfectly. Sometimes it's about remembering that everyone has a story, and everyone deserves to be treated with dignity, even when they're at their lowest point. Not every situation can be solved with a pair of handcuffs. Sometimes what people need most is just someone to listen and remember they're human.